Welcome to Brewers Daily. I am your host, Dave Casper, back in the home studio, back in the home office after the winter meetings in Orlando. Very fun time, very fun couple of days down there, enjoying the warmth, enjoying the sunshine. But it was an exciting 3 days. Transaction wise, we did see a couple of things end up happening. It was mostly free agents that ended up signing, and on the last day. It was Pete Alonso that was the big news. 5 years, 155 million. He goes to the Baltimore Orioles. He leaves the New York Mets. So that was some big time news, and he finally leaves the National League. It's 2 years too late for Brewers fans for him to leave, but hey, good for him getting the money that he ended up getting from Baltimore, and Baltimore gets to now say, they got a big win in the offseason. So good for their GM, Mike Elias. He kind of needs something like that. He makes a big splash, and they got a very strong lineup. Now they just kind of need some pitching over there. But big news to kind of wrap up the winter meetings. Mike Yastrzemski went to the Atlanta Braves. He signs a deal there. So a couple of guys go off the board once again, and then you get to the closing ceremonies of the Rule 5 draft, and the closing ceremonies. It's not the most exciting closing ceremonies for a ton of people, but I find it exciting, and I think you should find it exciting too, because the Rule 5 draft, the Brewers, well, it's not exactly exciting for the Brewers organization because they got raided during this Rule 5 draft. They lost 6 players in the minor league portion of the Rule 5. So there's the major league portion and the minor league portion. The major league, you got to keep a guy on the 26-man roster for the entire season. He's immediately added to your 40-man. You've got to keep them all season. It's very inflexible what you can do with your roster with a Rule 5 guy. And then the minor league portion, you can take someone from someone's minor league organization. As long as they're not protected on the AAA roster, you can take them, you can stash them anywhere, whether you put them in AA or AAA or low A or rookie ball, you can put them anywhere. So there's much more freedom kind of with the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft. And that's where the Brewers got rated, because the major league portion was pretty uneventful for the Brewers. The Brewers passed on making a selection, which was not surprising. They had one open roster spot, but it's not surprising at all that they didn't choose anyone after taking Connor Thomas last year. Didn't go well. Brewers don't really need a Rule 5 guy to add to the mix. But they didn't lose anyone in the major league phase this year. Last year, they lost Shane Smith. He went number 1 overall to the Chicago White Sox. So, and he ended up being a pretty darn good for him. So, Brewers don't lose anyone in the major league portion. So it's like, okay, that's good. But they did get rated during the AAA phase of the Rule 5 draft. So it started with the Cincinnati Reds. They took left-handed pitcher Nate Peterson, who I was pretty high on. I think he's probably the best of this group. I think he's the most likely to make the majors as a left-handed reliever who's fairly close to the big leagues. So I think he's someone that certainly makes a ton of sense. Mildly surprised the Brewers didn't protect him on their AAA roster, but I think they also recognized there's probably not much of a path for him to the big leagues in Milwaukee. So they wanted to maybe give him that opportunity to go elsewhere, and he does. So he goes to Cincinnati. So it's tough to see him go in division, but that's where Nate Peterson ends up going. Then you get to Caden Fire, another left-handed pitcher, goes to the Boston Red Sox. He gets picked there. Fire was an overslot signing out of high school in 2021, signed for like $500,000 about big time stuff. High school pick out of Washington, and he's been injured quite a bit. He's only thrown 27.2, 27 and 2/3 career innings, over these past couple of seasons. Just missed so much time with injury. So it's been tough for him to really get any sort of traction going, as a prospect. And he ends up getting a fresh start over there in Boston. And that kind of brings me to what the Brewers brought in, because I'll get to the rest of the guys that the Brewers lost here, but Caden Fire is very similar to the Brewers pick in the minor league portion of the Rule 5. The only pick that they made, Cole Phillips, who they took from the Seattle Mariners organization. Phillips was a second-round pick in 2022. He was drafted 6 spots ahead of Jacob Misiorowski. So you could say, like, the industry viewed him as better than Jacob Misiorowski at the time. The stuff was great. I mean, fastball, upper 90s, great secondaries, really, really, strong stuff that he had. He has yet to throw a professional pitch in his career. Since being drafted, he has not thrown a pitch in an actual game. He has not gotten into one at all. He has been injured the entire time. For all these years. He has been besieged by injuries. Two Tommy John surgeries. It's taken him so long to really kind of get anything going. So the Brewers pick him up. They take a flyer on him. It's like, hey, look, I mean, this dude was included in the Jared Kelenic deal back at the time when Jared Kelenic was still a big deal. Back when he was still a thing. So he was regarded as a pretty big piece, pretty good prospect, and he just hasn't been able to pitch. So the Brewers are thinking and hoping that if they can get this kid on the mound and the stuff does come back a little bit, that you could have yourself a pretty decent pitching prospect because with all the raw stuff that he has, getting him in the hands of the Brewers pitching development, that should be a pretty successful type of development. And that's something that the Brewers have had a ton of success with. So we'll see what Cole Phillips ends up becoming. But he hasn't pitched in 4 years. So it's tough for him, but he gets a fresh start with a great organization. So that's kind of where I mean Phillips and Fire are very similar, where they've just been kind of highly touted kids coming out, but they've just been beset by injuries so much you haven't seen a pitch, you don't really know what you got. So the Brewers take a flyer and they get him into the organization. And then okay, so now back to the players that the Brewers lost. This next one, near and dear to my heart, Hedbert Perez. The Hedbert hype train is going north of the border. He goes to the Toronto Blue Jays. Hedbert was such a highly touted prospect in 2019, 2020, when they just signed him as an international guy to Venezuela. He was a top guy in that class. He dominated the alternate training site during 2020 as a 17-year-old. Everyone's like, oh man, this kid's gonna be the next big thing. What Jackson Churio is what we thought Hedbert Perez was probably going to be. If it all turned out right. And instead, the development is kind of stalled. He's dealt with foot injuries and other issues. He's had problems staying healthy as well. He's kind of a little strikeout prone also. So the development has kind of stalled there, but Hedbert ends up getting a fresh start, going to Toronto, going to the American League champions. He'll probably be in Double A there. So tough to see Hedbert go, but great to see that he'll get a new opportunity and a fresh start somewhere to maybe make it to the major leagues. Next up, the Brewers lose Hansel Rincon to the New York Yankees. Now, if you don't know who that is, you can be forgiven. I didn't even know who that is, and I'm as big of a prospect nerd as you'll probably find on this Brewers team. Hansel Rincon is he was on the Brewers DSL roster, so he was in the Dominican Summer League. The Brewers had just signed him 2 weeks ago. They signed him November 25th. He ends up, he was released by the Arizona Diamondbacks after spending a couple of years in the lower levels of their system. Out of baseball for a year and a half. The Brewers signed him 2 weeks ago, and next thing you know, the Yankees pick him. Like, what? Why? I was sitting next to a couple of Yankees people, and they were just kind of laughing. It's just like, what is this? Who? I mean, there wasn't even a picture for him on the board. Because they had a little board like, okay, like this player, with their picture goes to this team. There wasn't even a picture. It was just kind of a blank generic profile for Hansel Rincon. Yeah, he had just signed 2 weeks ago. No one had ever heard of him, except apparently the Yankees. So they ended up picking him from the Brewers organization. They're like, hey, the Brewers signed a pitcher. Let's just take him. The Brewers see something in him, so there must be something. Let's take him. That's the price you pay for being a good organization with a lot of good players and a reputation for developing pitching. So he ends up going. The Minnesota Twins take Garrett Spain. Spain had a pretty good season for Double A Biloxi as an outfielder. And the Brewers took him in the minor league phase of the Rule 5 draft last year. So, okay, back-to-back years, Garrett Spain not protected in AAA, and he ends up getting picked. So I would imagine Spain goes to AAA in Minnesota. They certainly need bodies over in that organization. And then finally, Xavier Warren goes to the Cincinnati Reds. Cincinnati Reds double dip into the Brewers organization. They start with Nate Peterson, then they go to Xavier Warren. And Warren, third round pick in 2020, he was in that class with Garrett Mitchell, Joey Weimer, and he kind of never really panned out. Central Michigan guy. He was supposed to be this, on base machine. I mean, his on base percentage at Central Michigan is, I think, like over 500. I mean, it was something insane, something stupid like that. And he just kind of never really panned out with the Brewers. He was never really bad enough to be, just totally discarded. But he spent the last 3 years in Double A. I mean, he had plateaued. He was not moving up from that spot. So he gets a fresh start in Cincinnati, and we'll see what he ends up doing there. But yeah, so 6 players the Brewers lose, all right in a row there in AAA phase. Nate Peterson, Caden Vire, Hedbert Perez, Hansel Rincon, Garrett Spain, and Xavier Warren all plucked from the Brewers organization. The Brewers only backfilled with one. So now they have 5 open spots on their minor league rosters that they can fill. So we'll see what they end up doing with that because they certainly got some fresh opportunities there. So also kind of back to the big leagues here with trade rumors that are going on because Freddy Peralta's trade market has apparently exploded. According to the Athletic, he left, or the Brewers left the door ajar on Freddy Peralta and potentially trading him, and all these teams were just barging through because he was just that popular. I was able to talk to Matt Arnold and talk about this a little bit on previous shows. Talk to Matt Arnold down at the winter meetings, and he said he's a very popular name right now. He's a guy that a lot of teams like, and we like him too, obviously. And now we have, the teams that are interested, and there's not really any sort of surprises there with those teams. You got the Houston Astros who are looking for pitching. You have the New York Yankees as well. You got the Boston Red Sox that are in there. You also have the San Francisco Giants and the Baltimore Orioles. So it's a pretty strong group. The Orioles really do need frontline starting pitching. They've traded with the Brewers before for it, Corbin Burns. But yeah, the Orioles are interested. The Red Sox, the Yankees, Giants, Astros are among the teams interested. Also, the New York Mets. So a lot of teams calling, a lot of discussion as to what a price could look like. So we'll see. Now we've seen the Brewers kind of talk about how they're not exactly looking to move him, and ultimately, will he stay in Milwaukee? I'm maybe not as convinced now as I was before. With that much interest, the price can be going up, and with that much interest, you can also get teams willing to meet that price. So we'll see how those conversations continue, but that's certainly a real possibility that Freddy Peralta ends up moving here at some point. Maybe not necessarily in the near future. We'll probably have to see a few more starting pitchers go off the board, see Framber Valdez go, and see guys like that, kind of move Ranger Suarez. Once those guys go off the board, the other teams that remain that are looking for starting pitching, they could certainly be willing to up their prices or up their offers to meet the Brewers' price in order to get a deal done. So it's becoming a very real possibility that Freddy Peralta does end up going somewhere because as much as the Brewers say that they're excited about him and they want to keep him, I don't think they're as fully gung ho about keeping him as they were for, say, Willie Adames, because Adames was a position player, played every day. Peralta, a pitcher. You really kind of never know what can happen there. An injury can totally derail his earning potential, his contract, your return value, and that's going to make it that much more difficult. So they may have to look at it that way, but it's certainly a very tough decision for Matt Arnold. And he's got some other tough decisions coming up as well, as there's some more trade rumors on Brewers pitching, and it's not just Freddy Peralta, it's not just Trevor McGill. Now Nick Mears is drawing trade interest, according to the Athletic as well. So Nick Mears, he's out of options. He's projected to earn just over $1.5 million next season in arbitration. Been a really good setup guy for him. Obviously, the Brewers called on him a lot. I'm sure even now, Nick Mears, warming up somewhere, and he's getting some of that trade interest as the Athletic has put out. So that's going to be a name to kind of keep in mind here. As the Brewers might seek some flexibility in that bullpen because they have a lot of arms a lot of arms that they rely on that do not have minor league options left. So it makes it kind of tough to move things around and have a shuttle going. So that could lead to a trade of one of these guys. I still think McGill is most likely to end up going. Just with him projected to earn over $4 million, him being a closer, the value is that much higher. So that'd be a spot that I'd look, but don't rule out the possibility that Nick Mears ends up getting flipped here. That's something that could that's a very real possibility that he could end up moving after being such a workhorse for the organization this past season. So lots happening. Lots of discussions are happening, and now that the winter meetings are done and everyone's heading back to their own place, their home cities. Now with all the conversations that ended up happening here at the winter meetings for the stuff that didn't get closed, didn't get finalized, coming up fairly soon here, I think we'll see a lot of these deals end up getting across the finish line. So stay tuned for that, and we will have all of that covered coming up on Brewers Daily, as we will every single day, Monday through Friday. Anything that ends up happening, we'll be discussing it here, analyzing it, and breaking it down for you. So be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification button so that you get notified every single time we drop a new episode. And follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. I got a lot of great stuff on there from the winter meetings. Just talking with people and just kind of reports on the activity and what's been happening with the Brewers. So lots of great stuff on there. Follow me at dgasper24. So thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.